Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Let's Play. Is a retrospective even supposed to say welcome back? Welcome to the retrospective for Fire Emblem Three Houses. This is going to be probably a long one because I got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, I think everyone can guess what I'm going to talk about first. Holy crap. The way that this game is structured is aneurysm inducing. So, here's the thing. I like the story. And I love the fact that nobody has all the pieces so that every time you play through the story, you learn something new. I love the idea that Edelgard has all of this knowledge that is spread, but the church quashes. And so even the church route, you don't get access to because nobody has access to it. That's the whole point of squashing it. I love the fact that like Edelgard's version of events doesn't quite line up with what we know, but at the same time, the official histories are also really lie a lot. And Claude's connections to other lands like have him with a different perspective that is just as valid as anyone else's. That's a really cool way of setting up the game, and I really dig and adore it. Here's the problem: if you're going to set this up in order to have it, if you're going to design it so that the player is required to play through the game 3 or actually 4 times, 3.5 times, in order to get all the information, you need to anticipate that they're playing the game 3.5 times. Alright? When Claude and the church route are the only difference in one freaking mission out of like 23, even Dimitri's route and Claude's, or the church route, which were designed completely separately, even they were actually set up to only be different on like 3 missions. Like, that's ridiculous, and that's terrible game design. It's very... You end up not respecting your player and your player's time. You know, and here's the big problem. It doesn't even make sense from an game perspective, in lore perspective. Every single, the first half of the game is identical every single route. All 4 routes. It's the same. Literally nothing different except for a couple of cutscenes that are slightly different. You know, it was fun to play through that again with Edelgard, so we could kind of see how it handles the fact that she's the Flame Emperor. That was cool. But every single month, there is a assignment given to each of the 3 houses that they need to finish by the end of the month. What are the other houses doing? I don't know, because when I play as the other houses, for some reason, they're given the exact same assignment as the house I already played, which doesn't make any sense. There should be... You should have it set up to where each of the... all it is making different maps. Have different encounters and things going on. It's not that big a deal. It's not that difficult. Possibly have, Edelgard be the, Red Canyon with the, thief guy, the same as we hit the regular one, but then have different minor villains running around. Have the Flame Emperor show up in different months and do different things. You can make it more distinct. I would have actually been absolutely cool. I would have been absolutely cool if, the prologue was only 6 months long. And each one focused on a different area of the kingdom and what was going on there. And then the actual second half of the game was 8 or so months. Maybe even another 6. Sure, make it a lot shorter. But make it unique so that when you play it 3 different times, it's a different experience, and the 3 experiences come together to inform the entire picture. That would have been way better than what we got. What we got was basically you play through the game 3 times, but each time is only 10% different. So 90% of my time is just flat out wasted, and it's very frustrating. And as much as I liked the game, as much as I liked the design, as much as I freaking adored the characters, it was very hard to get past the knowledge and the fact that the game was wasting my fucking time. And I don't curse very much, but it was very annoying and very frustrating, and I didn't like it. So, yeah. If you're going to have a setup like that, you need to anticipate that your player's going to play through the game multiple times, and either set it up to where subsequent playthroughs aren't actually giving them new information. They don't have to do it to get all that you need, or that they do, in which case, give them a fresh and new and unique and interesting experience for when they do that. One of the two. Can't do neither. Or both, I guess. That's my biggest complaint about the game, and I think everyone knew it was going to be something I was going to bitch about. Like, I played Nier Automata. Nier Automata kind of does the same thing, where the first and second playthrough are from 2B and 9S's perspectives, and Nier Automata handles it flawlessly. Anything you did the first time through, like side quest, it doesn't even list again, because you've already done it. It doesn't want to waste your time. All of the main quests are significantly different from 9S's perspective because it's a different person playing. Like, it really doesn't feel like repeating the same storyline, even though you technically are. That's the way you do this. And admittedly, you can't necessarily do it the same way in Fire Emblem, but something. Like, be aware that your players are going to be doing this multiple times because you're forcing them to. And don't make me go through 22 missions in the church route in order to get through the one thing you freaking changed. I might be mad. That said, I do, like I said, there's a lot I really, really, really did like and appreciate, and some things that I find just freaking hilarious that they put into the game. We talked about it during the playthrough, but I cracked up at the fact that apparently Byleth is just a really shitty professor. I'm cursing like crazy. I apologize, guys. Because, like, Claude is a lot more competent in the routes where you don't teach him. At the same time, you know, whenever you're not teaching Edelgard, she dang near wins the war before you wake up. But when you are teaching Edelgard, oh my god. Also is a lot of things that are a little bit confusing. And granted, I know some of it is budget, but like a good example of that is that in like the church route and in Claude's route, Hubert knows where Shambhala is and where the Slitherers or home base is, but apparently not in Edelgard's route for some reason. Or he doesn't share it with us at the very least, in which case, why would he not? Like, we're best friends with him. So, that's odd. On sort of the same, like, concept, it was, you know, I remember when I was playing through the church route, both Claude and the church decided to infiltrate the stubborn old general by putting on disguising ourselves as the Imperial Army and getting in there, but with the church route, there's like no scenes backing that up. A few people make some random comments when you go around the church, but then it just sort of like happens with no discussion, and it's really weird. And then also, the second you walk in, they immediately know that we're not the Imperial Armor, so I don't even know what the point of it is. Like, for the other route, whenever it's a flanking attack, and we're sneaking in while Claude's dad actually stages an assault on the other side, it makes sense. It's actually sold very well. And the church room is just sort of like, oh yeah, here's the mission, and you're in the same place, and you're also in disguise for reasons. Like, it's very weird between the routes. But I'm complaining too much, and I don't want to give the impression that I did not enjoy playing this game. I played through it 3.5 times. I enjoy the game. The thing I enjoy the most is the characterization, without question, flag, or fail. The characters are marvelous. Looking back on it from this point, of the entire cast, and I'm going to say that the entire cast is like 36 people. I don't know if that's correct, but I feel like there are 8 members of each house. And then 8 members of the church, which is, 8 times 4, 32. And then 8 members and then the 4 Ashen Wolves. I want to say 36. I may be wrong about that. But I feel like very, very frequently you have 9-person missions, and then violence is one of your people. Actually, no, it's 9 people per house, isn't it? No, it's not. It's not. It's not. Because you have the equal numbers of male and female in most of the houses, so it has to be 8. Anyway, of the 36 people that I know of, because when you look at the church, I think there are 8 people in the church, because you have Sedith, Blaine, what am I trying to say? Sedith, Blaine, Catherine, Shamir, Alois, Cyril, Hannerman, and Manuela. That's 8. 9 if you want to count Ray, because apparently you can get to a high level, but I never actually got Ray to help me in battle except for that one where she's scripted, so I was confused about that. I don't know how we're actually supposed to get Ray involved. I don't know if you can. But regardless, of the 36 people, there's only like 3 I just generally did not enjoy spending time with. And those 3 are Manuela, Hannerman, and Mercedes. Everyone, like, there were certainly favorites. I don't think I need to tell you that I liked Leone a lot. I loved Raphael. I thought that Ignatz was interesting. I'm not going to go through and list all of the characters, but I'm just in Golden Deer. Lysithia, oh my god, she had the worst starts of her links, but then she ended up being one of my favorite characters, and I really got to where I respected her. Even, I'm blanking on her stupid name now, but even the Beast Rune lady, with the blue hair, you know what I'm talking about, like, she grew on me quite a bit. Like, they all had stories that got more and more interesting the more you found out about them, but then Mercedes, and granted, I think some of the problem with Mercedes is that's not even her voice. But her voice actors were just so flat and uninterested. It reminded me a lot of playing Persona 4 and having Elizabeth, who was just quirky and fun and random, and one of the highlights of Persona 3 for me being replaced with Margaret, and Margaret just sounded really bored the whole time you talked to her. And I didn't like that. I didn't like Margaret sounding bored the whole time I talked to her. But all of that said, I didn't like Mercedes because she didn't really seem interesting. And even when she would be in like other people's stories, occasionally she would facilitate other. But it was like Constance and Mercedes was just a really good example, because Constance would be like, "We're doing this," and she's like, "Okay," and that was like that was how it would grow. Then they did that, and Mercedes was like, "Okay." Even freaking like her being the sister of Emile. Emile was super fascinating and weird and interesting, and had this whole like having to deal with the urges of the Death Knight thing going on, and he's like, "If you come near me, I will kill you." And she's like, "I don't think you will." And I'm just like, "Oh my god, why do you bring everything boring?" I don't mean to sit here and rant forever, but I kind of do. And then like Manuela and Hannerman. Now, granted, I will be the first to say Manuela and Hannerman is a little unfair for me to list characters I don't like, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because I didn't like them, I didn't spend a lot of time getting to know them or doing their social links, and so yeah, I ended up not liking them because I didn't get to know them, and because I didn't get to know them, I ended up not liking them. But there were some I pushed towards the end, and even those, it's like Hannerman was just kind of flat, and I like breasts. And then Manuel kind of the same thing, like, I used to be in the opera, and boys don't like me. And that's like their whole characters. And granted, like, a lot of them were like that whenever you just looked at their C-level links. But it just seemed like they never grew past that. And it was frustrating as anything. But that said, I might have just not gotten deep enough to give them a chance. Because Sedith, I hated until I finally took the time and said, no, Sedith's going to be one of my main characters. We're going to fully explore him, and now he's one of my favorites. He's like up there. He's definitely not up at Shamir level. He's not even up at Raphael level. He's probably about equal to Felix, but he's still he's one of the most pure characters in Fire Emblem, which is fascinating for me to say. Like, at the end of the day, he's just like, yeah, like several centuries. How long has it been? I feel like 1,000 years, but maybe 5,000, like maybe 10,000. Like, it's been a long time. Um, and the Slitherers came in, and there was a big war with explosions, and Seth just basically ran off with Blaine and been like, yeah, my daughter's in danger, bye. And was in hiding for a really long time. And just recently came back in and was like, hey, yeah, Rhea, thanks for dealing with the Slitherer problem. We'll help you out because we owe you. Is kind of the gist of it I get. Had no idea all of the shady shit Rhea was up to. And then just wants to keep his daughter safe. He's overprotected like anything, but he's super. Like I was definitely counting him amongst the manipulative assholes in the church that were holding people down, and that's not what happened at all. So I definitely misjudged him. And then, yeah, just like all the characters. Look, I'm just gonna stop for a second and talk about my favorite characters. The fact that you had like, I'll just go each of the houses, and I'll try and cover. Like we are talking about Raphael and Lysithea. Raphael absolutely blew me away. I've talked about this before, but I was totally rolling my eyes, getting ready for a game long. This guy's fat, isn't it funny that he eats a lot? Because that's what Raphael was first presented as, and he turned into one of the most pure and gentle and wonderful characters in the entire game. And was just handled with nothing but respect. Always. And just... Oh my... Like, Raphael is, maturity goals. Like, if I can end up with people thinking of me the way I thought of Raphael, then I have been a successful human being. And then Lysithea ended up with the whole double quest thing and not living very long, and not wanting to burden other people. Like, just really, really, really good person. Leonie as well. I can't not talk about Leonie. Even though her fascination with my dad was weird as anything, I still really, really appreciate her as a character. In terms of Claude's route, I still am left not certain that Claude's route actually did anything. And it's really weird that Claude, who has the least to do with the church of any of them. Like, Dimitri was very loyal to the church, Edelgard was very hostile to the church, and Claude really seemed like he didn't care a whit about the church. So I still don't understand why he ended up fighting Nemesis, when it feels like Rhea should have fought Nemesis. And then Claude could have fought Rhea, because Claude doesn't give a damn about Rhea. But instead they have this whole, oh, you wanted to side with Rhea, but now you have to put her down. And this big emotional moment that is not an emotional moment at all. Although maybe that's because it was the last one I was just ready to be done with the game by that time, and I was just weird as anything. But yeah, it's his route really... It's odd that he's the only one that deals with Nemesis when he doesn't even... Like, I barely knew who Nemesis was. Like, I knew he was the King of Liberation, and he had fought with Rhea a long time ago, and was sort of the creator, but eventually, like, betrayed her and rose up against her, and, like, fought her in the intro. And then, like, the least relevant of the 3 or the 4 rulers is the one who actually, like, has to fight with the resurrected Nemesis. It's just weird as anything, and I didn't like it. I almost feel like Claude's route didn't need to be in the game. And you could have made a better game with just the other 2. But I get it, they wanted 3 houses. They wanted... I didn't feel like Claude added a whole lot to the game. Dimitri was the kind of classical route. It was very, very interesting. I think it's very, very weird and telling that the only route in which Dimitri lives is when you side with him. Apparently, I think that is kind of saying that he has a... He needs someone that will actually spend the time to both challenge and reinforce him. He's got Dedue, and Dedue will do whatever he says, and Dedue will do, like, be by his side. Dedue will be his wingman, but Dedue won't challenge him. Dedue won't tell him to cut his shit out. And Felix will tell him to cut his shit out, but has already given up on him. So he needs someone to bridge that gap, and without it, he just goes into a vivid turmoil of self-reproach and just gets himself killed. But actually, what the heck was up with Dimitri and the whole? Oh yeah, Dimitri was killed on the battlefield. Except he's going to show up to you in a dream. Like, what was that about? I still don't know if I'm supposed to assume Dimitri's alive or dead from that. I still think dead and it's a dream, but it's a really weird dream to have. And also the whole, like, oh, and Claude hasn't been found. He might be alive, but he might not be, and we're never going to bring this up again. Like, what? That was just, the church route was just really weird. So Dimitri's route, I did like Felix a lot. I hated Mercedes, as I've talked about. I thought Ash was interesting, but it was very strange to me that Ash was in the kingdom, because I always sort of felt like he was, like, Leonardo was an Imperial. And I don't know if I just had that mixed up in my head or what, but you definitely ended up with a situation where Ash felt sort of, like, hedged in there. Sorry, I realize I'm kind of rambling. I'm trying to think of all of the thoughts, and this is a retrospective, so I kind of trying to focus on all the different routes. I did really, really like saving the kingdom from Claudia and then turning on the Empire. So it is very, very interesting to me that that's another one of those random things that changes. Why didn't Hubert leave me a note when I killed Edelgard with the Kingdom Army? And I don't have an answer for that. Other than the fact that they put in the extra going and saving Claude, like, battles, so they didn't have enough time in the game to do it. But that's just such a unrewarding end to be like, oh well, yeah, this character acts different in this route because of game design reasons, not because it actually there's anything in the plot that explains it. I like to understand why things happen. I'd have to say I think the Kingdom cast is probably my least favorite. I liked Felix. A lot of the other ones are just sort of like, yeah, they were there. Versus, like, the Golden Deer, Raphael is one of my favorite characters ever. Lycity was hilarious. Leone was maybe this says something weird about me, but I just love tomboys in general. And then looking at the Empire, Caspar, I did not think I would like at all. I was just like, he's just a little, basically a brat, but he definitely grew on me in a massive way. Even freaking Hubert, who I still don't like, but was a much better character than I ever gave him credit for. You guys know how long I struggled with whether or not to end up with Petra or Happy, and Petra is very much up there. Bernadetta, just the little isolationist. I just want to squeeze her. She's amazing. Even freaking the orange hair guy, I liked quite a bit. So just all around good people. I do have to say the battle system was very, very good. The in-between game months where you just run around the monastery and talk to everyone felt a little weak. I don't know what they could have done to make it better, because, like, the side quests were not very fun. And the fact they literally on the map would have it blinking, go here! I'm just like, I feel like they could have done something better there, but I don't know what it would have been. But it definitely felt very kind of like haphazardly slapped on. Like, oh, we need to give you something to do other than battle, because battling gets boring. But we don't know what, so, here. And talking to people was fun, but, again, not 3.5 playthroughs worth, because very, very rarely did they say anything different. Even when they did, it wasn't that interesting. And sort of the church, I liked everyone in the church. People I've already talked that I didn't. You guys know how much I love and adore Shamir. And for the Ashen Wolves, all of the Ashen Wolves were great, except I still find Constance annoying, and her stupid sunlight makes me meek was just really a weird decision, and it almost felt like we're trying to make interesting character decisions, but we don't know how. That said, overall plot. The other problem that Fire Emblem 3 houses is it has a villain problem. Um, those who slither in the dark are just fundamentally not interesting enemies. And I think the big reason for that is because the only two members of Slitherers that are actually interesting are the two you kill off first. Solon and Kronya are very, very, very interesting enemies. They've infiltrated the surface. They've, have taken over people inside Garrick Mach. One of them killed your dad. One of them betrayed you and was experimenting on an entire village. And then you kill them the first time you run into them in battle, which is a little disappointing. I guess that's actually true. Solon does teleport away once, but Kronia dies the first time you see her. And then after those two, and also actually there's this whole question about who they are that is never really answered. It's you cannot die yet, Kronia. The secret of our bodies would be revealed. And then we never really find out what the hell he's talking about that. We get that they're a little bit mechanical in nature, and then apparently you can use their heart as a spell component, I guess, which is weird. I also don't quite know what the ritual of Zaharak, or whatever it's called, was. It sent me back into another dimension where Sothis let me back out of. But, her throne was there, so was it actually supposed to be beneath Garrick Mach? But also another... there was a lot of stuff that I feel like was there and you could make guesses about, but you had to guess as to what was actually going on, and that was not necessarily the best there ever was. But yeah, the Slitherers, all the other ones you ran into, you would occasionally see them in cutscenes, but none of them were interesting. And they all looked almost exactly like Solon. I don't understand why Kronia looks so much different than everyone else in the Slitherers. And maybe it's just me being me, but she's also just fundamentally more an interesting character design. The other ones are just old dudes in robes, and then she, her whole outfit is just, wow, okay. And the thing is, it's super sexualized, and usually I'm very, very against over-sexualization. But one, at least she's not underage, because my god, that just kills it for me. And so, that's one of the reasons that I'm not... And two, the fact that the game as a whole is so good about not sexualizing people lets me kind of be able to look the other way when it happens with one character, or maybe two. I can deal with Hilda being super into cute things. It seems a little dismissive, but at the same time, people can have that assumption. The problem I have is when, every character is just obsessed with their looks and dressing super va-va-boom, and I'm just this is just not realistic. This is not the way women act. But when you have only one character in the piece that's like that, and tons of great representation otherwise, yeah, I can be yeah, you know what, it's reasonable to have a few people that act like this, as long as it's not everyone, and it's not. So, I did not mind the way Kronia was presented at all. And also, actually, you can kind of see with what I'm drawing here, I actually found her one of the most memorable characters in the piece. I'm pretty sure if you have a vote of people's favorite characters, Kronia will actually end up very high on the list. I would almost be a certain higher than anyone else in the Slitherers, if nothing else. And yeah, I want to know more about her, and I really wish there was more information on the Slitherers that we could actually unearth. That's one thing that I kind of wish, and I think this is what Fates does a little bit. I don't know, I haven't played Fates, obviously. But it would be, if I were designing the game, I would have almost treated it like Warcraft 2, where you have 3 different playthroughs, except instead of it being 3 houses, you have Dimitri's campaign, which is distinct from Edelgard's campaign, and then the third campaign is actually, Kronia's. Really starkly different ones, and maybe you're trying to build forces, and it's not supposed to be a sequential thing. It's actually different. Your actions change the story significantly. which is kind of what they did, but then the actual gameplay was the exact same, and there's just it felt, for as good as the game is and as much as the devs cared about it, I felt like it was budgeted to be bad, and that it ended up wildly smashing expectations, which is unfortunate because I don't want Nintendo to think they can get away with this. You know, or not even Nintendo. Nintendo's not the publisher, but not the studio. But hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, that is my retrospective on Fire Emblem. I do think it's interesting. I actually was talking with Sunkia Veed about this a little bit in comments. It is interesting that you go and look, because I do not respect Edelgard, having finished the playthrough. I still feel like, and it's a little unfair given the setting, but the person who introduces violence is necessarily the person that fails. You know, above all else, you should not be willing, or you should not be requiring, basically, ultimatums always go against the person that issues them. The person who attacks Garreg Mach without, even declaring war formally, I can't respect that. But it is very interesting that Edelgard's plans for Fodlan were the best of all of the leaders. She wants to stop the Slitherers, although it's one of those really kind of like hypocritical ones where she wants to use the Slitherers until she topples all her other enemies, and then she wants to stop them. But she wants to do away with a lot of the church's edicts that are keeping technology back, and she wants to do away with the press system. All good things for Fodlan. The church wants to destroy the Slitherers, wants to keep the press system, and wants to keep a lot of the edicts that are like holding technology back because they help the church stay in power. Claude wants to stop the Slitherers, wants to undo a lot of the church's edicts, and might want to modify the quiz system some, but doesn't really want to change it. And then Dimitri just straight up status quo. So Dimitri will not help Fodlan at all, frankly. Claude will help it some. Maybe, I would even argue, will help it the... It's between Claude and Edelgard who will help it the most. Because the big difference that and the big difference is that you're looking at intentions, but in actuality, I think Edelgard will have a harder time getting rid of the Slitherers because they've infested her court. They've infested the Empire. So she can't move without them knowing she's coming a long time in advance, whereas Claude just straight up destroys them. Like, there's no question. Claude even takes out Nemesis. Like, Claude obliterates the Slitherers. And Edelgard's path, and granted you can say this because of budget, but Edelgard's path ends with her struggling against the Slitherers after the army's already disbanded, which is a bad sign. And lastly, and this granted is just me being kind of retrospective, but when I think of Fodlan in my 4 playthroughs, I feel like the first playthrough leaves Fodlan sort of nursing his wounds but not changing. I didn't know enough, but because I kind of feel like what Byleth is ultimately going to do is dictated by who he wants to spend the rest of his life with, and he or she is going to kind of inform what Byleth's priorities are, because priorities are closest to theirs because they are the ones that kind of resonated with him. So the first playthrough, when he ends up with Leone just wants to go out and help the common folk. And so she starts a mercenary group, and she goes out, and they stop wrongs wherever they find them. They're heroes, the common folk. Byleth ostensibly is in charge of the church, but doesn't spend a lot of time at the church. So most likely Sedith ends up taking over, or Rhea might even be still alive. Like, Rhea doesn't actually die like she does in the church route. But I also think it's not... I think we lose track of her in Shambhala when it collapses. So she might be dead, she might not, but either Rhea is still in charge and we don't realize the big picture, And we're just going around putting out fires and making things better in the short term, but we don't really see the damage the church is doing. In Dimitri's route, I end up with Dedu, because yes, I'm still headcanon that I end up with Dedu, because I find the stupid Sothis ending stupid as anything. We stick with the church becomes the new, like, bastion of power, but again, because Dedu won't actually stand up to Dimitri, because Dimitri doesn't see anything wrong, the kingdom just becomes the new church. Like, nothing gets better in Poland. At least the Leone ending, at least the Golden Deer ending, we're going around and actually actively helping as many people as we can find. This one, we just seem to be perpetuating all the problems. In Edelgard's ending, kind of similar to Leone, Shamir and Byleth go out and just become super successful battlefield people. I don't think Shamir's art is as good as Leone's, so we're not going out there and trying to help everyone we can find. We basically leave Poland up to its own devices, it feels like, and I feel like Edelgard has to struggle against the Slitherers. Although, that said, if I can guess what would happen a little bit more realistically, I do think whenever that happens, Shamir and Violet come back and help fight the Slitherers, and so that probably means that he would be able to get the army back together, but that's a lot of assumptions. But yeah, like, any big battle that's brewing, I'm sure Shamir would get involved with for the right price, and then Violet would come along. Or Varoth. I don't remember what I named them every playthrough. And then the last one, I do think the church route is actually the one that looks the best, because Hoppy was not happy with what the church was doing to people. So Hoppy would be very much on rolling back all these stupid edicts and making the church actually work for the common man again. And I feel like she would actually lead to the best future for Poland. Just something to think about. Regardless, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the pretty picture, because I definitely enjoyed drawing it. Oh, I should mention what is going to happen in the future. Because obviously we finished this playthrough. Finally, it's been a year and a half, maybe 2 years since we actually finished the stupid playthrough. In the short term, not a lot. This was the hype game, which I'm supposed to play very quickly when it's released, and then go on to a holding pattern until another big game comes out. Honestly, right now I'm focusing on finishing the other games that have also been in queue forever. And then I'll make a more formal announcements, because I don't think people are going to sit through a 40-minute video to find this out, but I do think I may be taking a step away a little bit, because, yeah, COVID's taken a lot out of me, and I'm in the health department, there's a lot going on. So, channel is definitely going to be reducing, because I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm a little burnt out, to be honest. So, like I said, there will be a more formal one. I'm definitely going to finish the playthrough I'm currently doing. I'm also have a big project I'm going to work on, and it just kind of like shift gears for a bit. Look forward to that.